Hello, Tasha. Delighted to be chatting to you again, third time.
Hello, yes. 3 times the charm.
Yeah, with Steve Evans this time.
Yeah, hi Tasha, pleased to meet you. First time chat for us, obviously. Yeah, I mean, I've known Terry for a while, but only got involved with the chats just before Christmas, I think it was, Terry, wasn't it?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We've done a few since then, you know, and so I'm really pleased to make your acquaintance and looking forward to hearing a bit more about it. Or about you, should I say?
Yeah. Tasha, can I ask, since last time we chatted, you've been promoted. You're now Lady Tasha?
Yes. Yeah. I was just a little upset. I didn't want to be classed as a widow. To me it just didn't sit right. And so yeah, I was sent a little pack, and I'm now Lady Tasha Brown. So
Brilliant.
we're in month 7. It's still hard. Obviously there are a lot of firsts that are still to hit. We've had a few, and with my 2 youngest daughters, one's just had a birthday and another's got one coming up in April. They have struggled a little bit, and you know, it breaks your heart when you see them upset. You know, my daughter's just had her first performance in a ballet show, and it hit her really hard then that, you know, her dad wasn't there to watch her. So yeah, it's up and down.
Oh dear.
Yeah, it's a sad old world, isn't it? But yeah, we have to move on, I suppose, and live, and it's not ideal, but hey ho.
Yeah.
For the benefit of me, I think Terry probably knows. Tell us a little bit about what happened with your husband and that. And I only know bits and pieces. You'll have to fill me in a little bit. So I'm really interested. So
yeah, so we got into lockdown, and my husband was working from home, and as lockdown progressed, he began working 7 till 7. Most of the time without breaks. We kept telling him, you know, you're entitled to a break. And it got to the stage where he was completely burnt out and depressed, and he started having, he was having trouble sleeping. He started taking some medication from the doctor to help him sleep, but he was almost fighting it. The depression got worse, and unfortunately my husband took his own life in August. And yeah, we all kind of thought that, you know, he was such a strong person. He was the last person that you would ever think would do anything, you know, and he basically promised us that he wouldn't do anything. But a couple of days after he died, we found a suicide note written like a month prior. And he'd planned it. He'd planned it right down to the last sort of detail. He just couldn't fight the depression anymore. You know, COVID, lockdown. You know, a lot of people struggled in a lot of different ways. And my husband was an outgoing person. You know, he loved to go to Glastonbury. He would travel up and down to Leicester and other places for his job. And when you're stuck in for that long a period of time with all the strains that go with the jobs, you know, and having to stay in and not able to check and stuff, he just couldn't cope with it anymore. And yeah, we lost him in August.
That's awful. Being a writer, has that been able to help in any way? Getting your emotions out on paper, getting them sort of out of your head, maybe?
I did up until a month ago. I kept a diary from, I think, probably the day after he died, literally just writing anything and everything that I was feeling. And it got to about a month ago, and then I did hit a rough patch about a month ago, and it sort of comes in waves. You'll have good days, and then you'll have days when you just can't function at all. And I did write it down, and I've kind of been toying with the idea of writing his story, if you like, and sort of all the things that accumulated and led up to where he was, and how it's impacted us as a family, because you know, it's not just affected me. His side of the family have basically now turned their backs on me, because they don't want to come here to the house to be reminded of him, which obviously impacts on my two youngest, who, you know, I've got 4 children. The 2 older ones have moved out and moved, you know, on with their lives, and there is a little bit of tension within that. But for the 2 young ones, you know, they're here at home, and you know, we're constantly talking about him, and you know, remembering things, and you know, we'll do certain things, and I'll double check with them, you know, are you okay with this? Because it does have a wider impact on just the fact that he's not here physically anymore. So with my writing, I think when I feel strong enough, I may put something down in a book, so that maybe it might help somebody else, you know, further down the line. But I think right now it's still kind of raw for me, but I have been logging it down and sort of working through things. So yeah.
Yeah, so maybe in time, not now perhaps, but yeah, you'll feel like maybe writing that into a book, I suppose. But and you've got the experience to do that, because you've written 11 novels now, haven't you, I believe?
Yeah. Yeah,
And,
can't put my pen down.
and just remind me, because I'm not sure if I've got it right. I've done a little bit of research, but when was your first book then? Was your first book published?
Oh my gosh,
2018, was it?
something like that. Yeah, yeah. I did 4 sort of sci-fi fantasy novels, first of all, which I have every intention of finishing off that little series at some point. But then just before lockdown, I started looking into the paranormal, and then a story that I had shelved quite a number of years before suddenly made sense. The piece that was missing suddenly made sense, and I started writing the paranormal fiction series, and basically they've just kind of gone on and on and on, and I'm currently writing book 8 of that particular series.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive in what, 4 years?
Yeah,
That's
I do
quite
an awful lot of writing.
That's a lot of writing, you know. I've an experience of a few authors who are friends, you know, including Terry, and I think he'd even Terry will tell you himself, you know. That's pretty good, isn't it, Terry?
Well, I've done 1 in 5 years. I can't compete. I think you've got the most prolific author I think we've chatted to, Tasha. No one's in that short period has written as much as you have.
I don't know if that's
No,
good
it's
or
amazing,
bad.
isn't it?
That's brilliant, I think.
But I really, ever since I was little, I've always wanted to write, and for me, it's my way of relaxing. It's something that I can do pretty much anywhere. You know, I take my daughter swimming on a Saturday morning, and while she's in the pool, I'll be sat there with my laptop, you know, finishing off the writing and stuff. And yeah, just something that I've always. It used to be when the children were small. It used to be late at night, you know, when I couldn't sleep and stuff. But now it's pretty much all the time.
You don't appear to have problems with thinking about storylines and that. It obviously comes to you very quickly, and you're obviously
Get a
into
lot
this
of help with
paranormal
that.
stuff. So
Yeah,
you obviously
I get a
love
lot
the
of help.
paranormal activity,
Yeah.
don't you? The paranormal stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I get help from the spirits. Some of it will be their stories. A lot of it is just experience when I've gone out and had investigations, and I'll come home and I'll just write it all down, and suddenly, before you know it, there's another book.
Reading, I don't know where it is. I can't remember. I've read bits and pieces about you, but it's somewhere that you had your first typewriter at age 6 or 7. So you're obviously very serious about writing. You must have enjoyed it at the time. So tell us a little bit more about how did the typewriter come about, and a bit more about writing.
I just think that all I can remember is saying to my parents, I want to write. And I wanted a typewriter, and I had it was a little red thing with a black and red ribbon, And they've actually kept in a photo album sheets of paper that I, typed out little letters and talked about my brother playing with his cars and his lorries and all sorts. So yeah, ever since I can remember, that's all I wanted to do. And I do remember getting into trouble at school. We were writing in our little workbooks, and I can't remember what it was I was writing, but I wrote it as though it were like a chapter. So I had a heading and put it down, and my teacher said to me, "Why did you write it like that?" And I said, "Because I want to write a book." And I got told off because I should have been doing the work and not writing it all out like I was writing a book in my workbook.
I should have been
Always remember
encouraged.
that, and I was only little.
Oh.
Yeah.
Who was it that gave you all that massive encouragement then, to get it all going? Start the novels off?
It would have been my husband that did that, because when I was growing up, it's not a Victorian family, but it was always like, if you're going to have a job, you go out and you get a proper job. And my parents particularly didn't class writing as a proper job. It was something that you did as a hobby, for example, whereas now my dad collects all my books. So it's a different kind of scenario. But back then it was kind of, if you're wanting to, have a typewriter or something, then you need to be a secretary or something of that sort of, that was just the way it was. And I do remember in my teens, I had a typewriter, and my mum would shout up the stairs, "Stop clicking that damn typewriter," because I'd be up there for hours just tapping away. But yeah, it's something that I've always wanted to do. So
yeah, it's like writing is almost part of your school education, so you do it then, but you don't do it as a career. You're not going to make any money out of that. Now do something sensible, daughter, that sort of thing, isn't it? But yeah,
no, that was it entirely. Yeah, it wasn't it was a very, if you think back even 10 years, as society has changed, it's changed a lot. I'll say to my children, "Oh, X, Y, and Z is something that we used to do when we were kids," and they'd look at me like, "Really? What?" But because I think everybody has a computer now, and everybody has a cell phone, and things are done so differently, it's that jump has happened in quite a short space of time. So if you say to my kids, using a typewriter, they're like, "Really?" Like, that's kind of manual. We have automatic now, Mum. So back when I was a child, it was completely different. You were expected to go out and get what they class as a proper job. And but it didn't squash that need to write.
I've just looking at your covers of your books that Terry's got up behind him as his background. And when you logged back in there, I think before you got your video on, I think one of your covers is on there, isn't it? I think
it is. Yeah.
So who designed the covers for your book? They're really good.
Yeah. So I go through a company called Cover Collection, but I am lucky enough to have one girl who deals with me continuously. Lauren, her name is. And she's fabulous, and she designed all of my book covers, and she's helping me with my new. I've already chosen book 7's book cover, which is for Between Realms, Smuggler's Den, which is a really good one. And I'm writing at the moment the barber's chair. So she's brilliant. She knows kind of what I'm after, and ever since the first book, I Never Left, she's done an absolutely amazing job. I Never Left, the image is exactly how I described to her.
Walking down the tunnel in the baths, is this?
The tunnel in Smethwick Baths in Birmingham, and I saw an entity just like that coming up towards me. And when I saw the cover, I was like, that's perfect. That is what I'm looking for. And ever since then, she's tied them all in, and she does a brilliant job, absolutely brilliant. I can't wait for you guys to see the next two, because I'm really excited about them.
Well, we'll definitely have to book another chat then. Maybe just on the launch of that.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
hoping it would be April, but I'm not so sure now.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh,
no, it's it will happen. I just would like the next two to go out together, mainly because they kind of follow on in terms of they're no longer standalone books. Like before, you could read book one and right up until the music box, you could read any one of those and not feel the need to sort of go on any further, because it's all kind of, you know, they are standalone, if you like.
There's no cliffhanger at the end of it.
Yeah, but now they definitely all have a theme. They all follow on. The story continues, and yeah. So book 7, the beta readers were like, you can't release this without the next one, because we need to know what's going to happen. And I don't leave them on a cliffhanger, but there is threads that need tying up for sure.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
So can I ask you about sales? How was sales gone on your previous books? Is it fairly consistent?
They could be better.
Yeah. Well, you can always be better, can't it? Yeah.
Books 1 through 3, I have the highest sales on, I have to say. Whether that's because the promotion of those 3 in particular have been a little bit higher, because especially with the music box, it wasn't it was based on something that happened, and there were 8 other people involved who I've never met, or I hadn't met all of them. I've met a few of them since then, but it was so terrifying that once it sort of went live and the other 8 people, you know, were talking and said, yeah, you know, we know about this story, we were involved, we've seen X, Y, and Z to it. There were a lot of other paranormal groups and followers who then wanted to know more about it, so they had to read to find out everything, basically. Yeah. So those sales for those books have been really good. Book 4, when it first came out, had a bit of a boost because that's an adult only book for sure. That one is an adult book, and it has an over 18s sticker on it.
Oh, right.
But the other ones, yeah, they're slow to catch up, but hopefully they will. I do have a really nice following for them, people who are so eager to get them that they pre-book them every single time, because they're like, we want them as soon as they come out, we want them.
You find that the Facebook's better for the sales, Tasha?
For me it is, yeah. I struggle with Twitter.
Yeah.
I really do struggle with Twitter. I know when my husband died and I took, I think it was like 4 to 6 weeks off of social media, I lost a lot of followers. And I've never really sort of gained them back. But with Twitter, you know, with my Facebook, I can go on there maybe once a week. Sometimes my sister will post on there for me, and the following seems to just keep going, and I get a lot of interaction. You come off of Facebook for more than 24 hours, off of Twitter, sorry, and yeah, you lose so many followers. It's almost like if you're not on there 24/7, then you're not worthy. And I do struggle with that.
And it's only like it's like a short-term memory with Twitter as well, like a goldfish, isn't it? You know, you can post something that's really popular, and within 5-10 minutes, you know, it's forgotten. It's gone. Yeah,
it's lost with the millions of other ones that, you know, scroll up. So it is hard. I think Twitter's probably my, if I could breach that one and get somewhere with it, then I could possibly boost my sales a heap more. But you know, again, you're breaking into something that has quite a firm structure, and as a newbie, I still class myself as a newbie. It's really hard.
I think if you can build up a good big number, it sort of adds to the brand, doesn't it? You know, you become more of an established. And then if you use other social media platforms, you know, with that, I've got 20,000 followers on Twitter behind you. It adds to your authenticity in a way. Makes you more.
I did find my numbers soared after I had an advert put in the Haunted magazine.
I remember you mentioning this.
Available in W.H. Smith's over here, as well as Barnes and Noble in the US, and that has given me a huge following, more so on Facebook. People saying, "Oh, I know that person," and that writer, she does the lives on the paranormal group, so I'll go over there. And I've just done, I did last week about an hour tarot reading for the group, and just people sort of commented, yeah, I'd like a card, and I would, you know, I gave as many as I could do it within the hour, and that was really quite popular as well. So it's just finding that little niche that boosts it, so that then they all come back to look at your books afterwards.
Yeah, it's like finding a publisher as well. It's a luck, isn't it? You know, you might tweet something tomorrow and it gets 30,000 likes, and then, you know, you get that many more followers, and it adds to the brand and things like that.
Wow.
You're back to full time now in the investigations, Tasha. No, lockdown and everything, it's all gone. All restrictions have been lifted.
We are, I do a lot of private cases. With I've been adopted by a local group. We met at the prison, and I just sort of stopped and said, you know,
can I just say, not while you were an inmate?
No, not while I was an inmate. I'm a regular at Shepton Mallet Prison. It's my local haunt. And I go there quite often, and I bump into a lot of different people, and I bumped into Lee, who runs this paranormal group, and we started chatting, and then he invited me to a couple of private functions that they had, some events, and I picked up on a few things, and I just sort of reeled them off, and then they were validated by his historian, who researches into the properties that we go to, and he kind of was like, we need you back again. And then I showed him my new skill, which is when I go, I can sometimes trance and sketch the things and the people the spirits that I see. So I started doing that, and again I had more validation, and then they took me on as their wingman, as it were. So although I retain my freelance, so I still go up and down the country with some of the larger events, purely just for fun. I also help with this paranormal group with their live shows and their public events, and we just meet up privately, and you know, we'll do a couple of house clearings, or just some investigations and things, to a lot of places where some of the bigger events are not allowed to go. They're only small private inns, or a hotel, or a couple of houses, and we'll get invited along, and it's fun for me.
Yeah. So Terry tells me, and I think I read it somewhere else, maybe on your Twitter site, that your house is haunted. Tell me a little bit about that, and what you know, and or how do you know it's haunted? Well, you must have seen something, and again, I'm really interested to find out a little bit more from you.
So yeah, my house is over 300 years old. It started out as a cottage, and it's actually linked to Shepton Prison, because when it was a cottage, the matron who worked at the prison stayed here for a little while. She rented the cottage, and Hipsley Cox, who built the hotel just down the road, Stone Eastern Hotel, was in Parliament at the time, and he went into Shepton Prison and had a look at the conditions, and then went to Parliament to put in a complaint and get the prison changed. It was sort of 4 years after that it actually did get changed, but the matron used to live here. Now, I didn't know this until a year before lockdown, but 3 days after we moved in, I met some past occupants, shall we say, a young girl who I chased up over the stairs thinking it was one of my children, and another gentleman who wore a turban and like a peacock green top. And it wasn't until a few years after that that I actually met somebody who lived here, probably about 70 or 80 years ago now, who confirmed the guy with the turban lived here for a little while. And I've seen shadows, I've seen movement, I've picked up on different people that have come in and out. Yeah, so that we get a lot of movement. I have caught a few things on camera before, just moving around, and yeah. So just before lockdown, I was like, I need to find out, whether I'm completely mad or if I'm cursed. I thought I was cursed, and it turns out that I'm actually psychic medium, and I can see these things, and the things that go bump in my house actually do go bump in the house.
Wow, sounds like a fascinating house.
Yeah,
it must be gorgeous. I'd love to see that.
We did there was a live, 4 psychic mediums were on a Facebook live, and I tuned in to watch them, and they picked up on everything that was going on in the house, and I could validate for them and confirm, and none of them had ever been here before. It was the most surreal thing. And I had 2 friends who'd come over, and they were just like, we don't know whether to run out onto the drive screaming or whether we should stay and just enjoy it.
I've been running away.
There's nothing bad here, so it's okay.
Tasha, do you think as the years have gone, the past couple of years, and you're writing more and more about it, do you think that this sort of sense that you've got, has that increased? Has it become stronger?
Yeah, for sure. I saw my grandmother years ago, after she died, and back then you didn't really talk about when people died in the family, to the children. It was kind of, they just disappeared one day. And I remember seeing her, and just you learn as a child to keep things to yourself, because you don't want to, the bullying and to be picked on. You don't want to be the weird one, and so I've sort of kept it to myself for a long time. And then probably a year after I first started investigating, I met Gary Fields, who's a TV psychic medium, and a very lovely chap. And I met him down at Drakelow Tunnels, and I'd had a dream the night before, which I told him at the beginning of the evening what had happened, and I'd actually logged it on Facebook that morning. I'd said, I've had a really rough night, this has happened, blah blah blah. And some of the things that happened in the dream actually happened whilst we were at Drakelow, and Gary was absolutely amazing. He was able to explain to me how and why, and I talked to him a lot online. I've met up with him a number of times. He's almost tucked me under his wing, and if I've got any questions whatsoever, he will help me. And I joined during lockdown a Angel Intuitive class, and they've helped me to understand and to expand things, because before they how can I explain it? They said I was a beacon, like a lighthouse, and I was just attracting everything in, and I had to learn how to go, not tonight, I'll talk to you, or I'll deal with you at such and such a time, because I was literally just being bombarded by the whole experience. It did get to the stage where I had to learn how to close off and do what they class as shop hours, so that it wasn't impacting on me, because the more open you are and the more you start to learn, the more intuitive you are, the more you kind of pick up. And so I could have done what I do now a long time ago, but I kind of pushed it away, and I avoided places and people that sort of set me off, if you like. You know, I love looking around old houses and castles, so I would get set off. And then my two little ones, they would go, I wonder if mummy's going to get affected, you know, here today.
Yeah.
And things like this. And so now I know that I can go to places and I'll still pick things up, but I'm able to now go, don't bother me,
Yeah.
if I don't want to be bombarded by it.
Okay.
Yeah, incredible.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, I see where you're coming from, but how do you get through to people? You meet people that are very skeptical about paranormal activities. Not, yeah, you know, I see you shaking there, nodding your head there.
Yeah.
So how do you convince these people, and what do you say to those people about, well, to convince them, if you like? I mean, and it must be difficult.
It is a hard one. I meet a lot of people at the prison when I go there, and they'll see me doing a little investigation whenever I go there. And there's been some really big skeptics, and each to their own. You know, you can't prove it all the time. However, there have been experiences where, for example, I went to Shepton Prison a couple of months back now. I was sat on the floor of one of the cells, and they've got a second and a third level, so we call it the 2s and the 3s. And my middle daughter and Lee from the paranormal group were up on one of the levels. I was sat on the floor with my youngest daughter, and I had a piece of wood thrown at me, and it came down through the suicide net, and it bounced off the floor, and everybody was kind of like, what? And then I have a little spirit box, and the spirit box said it was thrown at you. And I was like, yeah, what was that? And the spirit box said wood. And then my youngest daughter, because I couldn't get up off the floor quick enough, she picked it up and handed it to me, and it was a little tiny piece of wood. And when we looked up, there was no wood anywhere. Everything is metal. On the 2s and the 3s, there's no wood up there whatsoever. We have no idea where it came from. And there were some people who were sat on the stairs on my right watching us as we sort of filmed and sort of asking questions into the spirit box. And they literally got up and walked out. They were so spooked. But before, they'd been sort of talking to us, going, oh no, there's nothing here, you know, it's just the way it is. And when that happened and they actually physically seen, and they said, we seen it sort of come off the 2s, and you know, Lee and your weren't anywhere near it. It just flew from nowhere almost. Yeah, they got up and left, which was quite funny. But it happens. My husband was the biggest skeptic, and I'd say to him, X, Y, and Z has happened downstairs, and everything was black or white to him. He's an electrical engineer, everything was black or white. And then one day he came upstairs, and I'd already gone to bed, and he said, when are you cleansing the house again? Now, my husband was one of those people that when I got the stuff out to cleanse the house, his eyes would roll and he'd be like, really? And he came up and he just sort of climbed into bed and he said, when are you cleansing the house again? And I was like, oh, I was planning on doing it tomorrow. Why? And he just went, because I've just seen a man stood at the top of the stairs. And he rolled over and went to sleep. And when I asked him about it again, he refused to talk about it.
Wow.
I can ask, go back to your writing. Have you ever, your themes of paranormal and the Tesla series, that's about sort of alien and the real character Tesla. You ever thought of writing more children's fiction, paranormal? You know, you've got young children yourself, you know, to read to. Is that anything you've ever explored?
I have thought about it because my youngest, she's just turned 11 and she loves books. She devours books all the time. And I guess I was sort of hoping that this paranormal you know, the Between Realms series would be suitable for sort of her age group upwards. But as the series has gone on, it's gotten darker and darker. So I'm not kind of sure.
Not suitable for kids.
The first one that I read terrified me.
Yeah.
No, I couldn't believe it when Terry told me he was terrified and he was actually scared. He told me,
I think you said you had the light on while you were reading,
I did,
didn't
you? Sorry to interrupt you. Go on.
This book is literally based on real life happening. Everything that happened in that book actually happened. The same with book 3, which is the music box, which is a really big thing for me. So I mean, throughout all of them, there are different scenes and elements that have happened. But yeah, I can yeah, there's a couple of people who've read them and said, you know, oh my gosh, I've got goosebumps. So yeah.
Oh, it scared me, definitely. Can I ask, what are you working on now then? You're working on book 12?
Book
this is going to be 8 of
book 8 in the
book
series.
8. So
right.
It'll be the 8th in the series, but it will be book 9 that I've written, because obviously I had the real haunting of the music box, which was sort of an extra little book that I wrote, about what actually happened to me, and how the book came about to be written. But so I'm on book 8 now, but I'm hoping that book 7 and 8 will come out together, because they are kind of linked with each other. But book 8 came back from one of my beta readers, and she's brilliant. She tells it as it is, and she said, you've set the stage for it to be really dark, but when it sort of came to it, it's quite tame. And I was like, I was trying not to be sort of too Stephen King, if you like. But now I know that I have written something that should have gone in there, but I took it out thinking it was too Stephen King, and she says it needs to go in. So yeah, so it's having a bit of a rewrite.
A good critic to have, in a way, I suppose, isn't it? Because you need that. You don't just need everyone going, oh, that was really good. You need to hear
no, I always give it to her first before I give it to everybody else, because she's brutally honest. She doesn't hold back, and that's what I need. I need somebody to go, you know, this is total pants, get rid of it.
Yeah. So most of your books, if I'm right, are independently published, aren't they, or self-published?
They are,
so have you any thoughts about speaking to traditional publishers or going down that route, or have you looked into that, or you're quite happy doing?
I have tried. 3 didn't get back to me. One said that they'd already closed their books and I was too late to get in there, but they liked what I'd written. And then I have sent off to a couple more this year, but a lot of them don't like to take you if you've been independently published, which is quite hard. So you're in that kind of, you know, from my point of view, I think the work is all there, and if you look at it, this shows that I'm not just going to be a one-off. I want to write. I'm going to continue to write. And then on the other hand, I think they think that because you independently, that you're just lazy and you just, you know.
I'm surprised at that. Tasha, I'd sort of agree with you. I think you've got an excellent CV now. You've got an excellent writing pedigree. You built up a brand. You've got a decent following on social media. You've done all the things that, you know, a new writer hasn't got. You're established. You know, you've got the word power out there.
It's very strange, because one publisher actually told me, and it kind of hurt as well, that you have to have a following of over 5,000 followers for them to even be interested in you, because they base your following on your book sales. And I thought that was really, really harsh.
Yeah, you could have 100,000 and sell one book.
I used to have sort of, let's say, 2,000 on Twitter. I think I'm now down to like 1,500, because I'm not able to be on Twitter every single day. And I think if I spend all my time on Twitter, then I'm not going to spend my time writing, because I'm always going to be on social media. So it's really quite difficult to find that balance of being on social media and drumming up business to actually sitting down and going, well, I want to spend, you know, this half hour that I've got completely editing or completely writing a new chapter or something. So traditional publishing, I think they're making it harder on themselves as well, you know, but they've made it really hard for people like myself to break into the industry.
Yeah, I totally agree.
They almost seem to make the rules up as they go along. I've got a good friend here on the Wirral who's a writer, and I mean, a few years ago she was unknown. She had hardly any followers on Twitter. She sent a book in and it got picked up straight away. Well, no, actually, that's a bit of a lie. It got picked up after, I think, the third edit, after she kept sending it back. And she had to persevere and keep going back. But she got there in the end, and she's on a 4th or 5th book now, you know, and they're all published by a company, you know.
It's luck as well, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's a bit of luck as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
What they're looking for at the time.
As well.
The right book at the right time, I think, is...
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. She's got 3,500 followers now, and, you know, it's all going quite well. But again, you've got to be right place, right time, I think, sometimes.
Absolutely, and
you think, though, you know, you've got all those books out, and as Terry alluded to, you know, you've got a proven series. So you'd think they'd... you know, someone had picked that up. It's a shame, isn't it? It's a shame.
Especially after all the hard work, you know, you know, I think most of my books take me a good 6 months to write, and then to edit them, and then to send them out to the betas and get them back, and then redo it and jig it about again before they go out. So, you know, it's not a quick process. You know, like I'm writing book 8 now, but I'm still editing book 7. I'm still going back over a few bits. I've got a huge book full of ideas for the next one that sort of, you know, come along, and it's a lot of work, and you know, everybody hopes for that traditional publisher, but you know, maybe one day.
So is this pretty much a full-time role you've got, book writing, or do you have to get out and do a bit of other work, or you're concentrating solely on writing?
I used to have a day job. I used to be a housekeeper until about a month ago, and that was only part-time then, but I gave that up. I've had a few health problems. I've got arthritis now, so it's really hard to bend down and scrub, and I'd rather be cooking for my own family than for, you know, the families that I used to look after. So I gave it all up. I'm a full-time author now, and just me and my 2 girls, the dog, and my laptop. What more could you want?
Yeah. On that note, I think time's caught up. I think we're going to be bombed out. So Tasha,
finished already?
Honestly, I know. Do you know what? I looked at the clock. Whoa, hang on a minute. Where's it gone? Tasha, been a delight chatting to me for the 3rd time. It gets better every time, I think.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I do enjoy our chats. I really do.
We'll definitely have to do this again in a few months or whatever, when your next book's ready, and see how you're getting on. That'd be really interesting.
Let's make it regular.
I'm sure there's still a lot more questions.
I'm going to have to get you guys down here and get you on an investigation with me.
That'd be fun, wouldn't it?
Extra pair of pants for me.
I'm too busy.
No.
Terry's already panicking about that. He's getting afraid already.
Oh dear. Oh well, that's, thanks again, Tasha. Really enjoyed your company again.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Okay, let's keep in touch.
Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Loved it. Great. Thanks.
Thank you. Lovely to meet you, Steve.
Yeah, and you, Tasha. Yeah, take care. Yeah.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye now.
Brilliant.
Bye.
Bye.